this run at Becoming Enlightened Together. So, as I've stated in previous months, because of the situations that I have found myself in, it's been very, very difficult. Actually, it's been nearly impossible for me to be consistent on a daily basis here. So when I miss, a couple of days, I try to make up for them when I can. And that's what I'm going to try to do here today. I'm going to try to do 3 readings, if time will permit me to do so. And I don't get called away. But that's my objective for this moment, to make up for the ones that I've missed over the last couple of days. Now, again, these are, general readings, and they're also timeless, which means it doesn't matter what day they were for. Not really. Not unless you're doing, for example, a one-on-one type of a reading, or you're doing it for a group setting or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, if it's a general reading, it's just meant that, when somebody's directed here out of, some bizarre accident, or if you were silly enough to actually just do it on your own. I don't mean that, and I'm thankful if you did decide to open this up. No, I just mean that this is for whoever it is that actually, is watching this. There's something in it that's for you. Whether the whole thing is for you or not, you have to decide by trusting and learning to trust your intuition. So, people that watch these things, hopefully they're investing time and really going within so that they themselves can actually become more in touch with their own intuition. Because that's really needed in these situations. You don't want to put your fate in the hands of anybody else. Okay? And I go to painstaking means, everything else to get clarity on these things and confirmation in these things before I get it out to the collective for that very reason. Sometimes I'm watching, tarot readings or something like that online, and because I've watched them for many years now, off and on, that I've come to the conclusion that it's really into the interpretation of the actual reader himself, even though they may be getting precisely the same information. The way that they perceive it may differ considerably. So you really should trust, well, no, you shouldn't. You should trust your own intuition, is really what I mean to say. And find people that you really resonate with, okay? And be cautious of that. And I'm not putting some type of a disclaimer, or I'm not, putting down anybody out there at all. I'm just saying that I've seen enough of these to know that there are significant differences sometimes in the way that they perceive even similar, readings. I mean, they get the energies sometimes twisted up. And you also have to be aware of this too, in case you're not that familiar with divination. When I say male or female, that is the energy that particular party or person or group is more or less in, okay? It doesn't mean their gender per se. And it could, very much so, but it's generally talking about the energy of a masculine versus the energy of a feminine. And there are significant differences, like the yin and yang kind of a thing. They break it down into categories and everything else. And yes, a man can have feminine qualities as well as a woman having masculine qualities. So if they're not balanced, then a woman can be very much in her masculine mode, as a form of defense or whatever the case may be. She may be very aggressive, outgoing, and, a go-getter kind of a thing. Like we see today, especially with women who are, quite capable, well-educated, and really, doing the most in terms of getting ahead in terms of their careers and things of that nature. And I have absolutely no problem with that. Viking culture was very different than the majority of the Western culture at that time period. They did consider their women, although maybe not equal all the time, because you can't really put everything into, one lump, if you will, ideology. As you look at the culture as a whole, there's always been, force over finesse, over intelligence, over right, things like that. So sometimes it doesn't always apply, but by and large, they treated their women as equals. Women were allowed to divorce, women were allowed to own property, sometimes even their own business, things of that nature. So they went to war in many cases with the men. Shield maidens and things of that nature. I mean, I'm not saying that we're 100% considered equal on all levels. I don't want to, give the wrong impression here, but in comparison to their other Western counterparts, they were far more civil, far more mature emotionally in that regard, and towards their loved, their spouse. And despite all the pictures that we watch about the burning, the raping, the pillaging, and all that kind of stuff, um, they did look after one another. They did look after their families, their villages, and everything else. They're very family oriented. Um, so there's a lot to be said about their structure. Okay, and there are more similarities even within the mythologies between, let's say, Christendom and Norse mythology, even though there are obvious, discrepancies or differences of opinion in certain things. I think that somebody who's really taken the time to study these things more in depth would find more in common than not. Okay, but you have to get away from status quo. You have to get out of the box of you have to think like this or that or whatever the case may be, or you're going to hell, or you're going to be ostracized by your community, or whatever the case may be. Be authentic. Take responsibility for your own thoughts. Okay. That doesn't mean if somebody tells you something, you automatically dismiss it. No, I'm saying you can take it, you can resonate with it, and whether you agree or disagree with it, you should go in, and if it's something that's important to you, you should invest some time and effort into seeing whether that is true or not, researching. In today's world, I'm not going to say it's much easier, because even though we have access to unlimited amounts of information, that can oftentimes make the discovery of genuine truth harder. You have to use your discernment too, and you have to use the critical thinking process in order to get to any truth. You don't come in with any preconceived notion of what the truth actually is. You look at both sides of it, give both sides, as much equality as you can, and you weigh the pros and cons until you see for yourself that, yes, this very much seems to be more in line, and I feel it to be exactly, I should say you feel it, know it, sense it to be genuine or real, or the truth. Whereas there are enough things on the other side where you have either unanswerable questions, perhaps a lot of propaganda behind it, versus genuine facts, truth, and unreliable sources, to say the least, in one side, and you find that the other side may have an entire list of very credible sources. Now, again, you have to decide what that means for you individually, and that's where it gets convoluted and confusing at times. But I think you get the gist of what I'm saying. Alright, so the overall energy for this week is exactly the opposite. I mean exactly the opposite of last week's energy. And what do I mean? Well, last week's energy, we had ISOL as the overall weekly energy. That means regardless of the daily energies and everything else, it is encompassed with this particular background energy. This is the most, if you will, prevalent energy. And it was ISOL in the upright. Now, ISOL in the upright is basically letting us know that the best move to make at this point in time is to do nothing physically or tangibly, if you will, save going within, meditating, seek your clarity, and wait for it, and trusting your intuition. That's, in a nutshell, what it means. Whereas this week, what we're seeing is I saw again, but I saw this time is in the reverse. So you can expect something along the lines of a reverse meaning. Although it's not always that clear, what we're seeing here is that indeed it is time to act on whatever the particular situation in your life is, whether you are of the cross watcher or / karmic persuasion, those who are checking in, to find some information, but maybe they've been involved in questionable behaviors. I'll just leave it at that. Whereas the collective has, for the most part, discarded those types of behaviors and is doing, or are doing, I should say, everything in their power to become, the best version of themselves, which means stripping away the things that no longer serve you and really bringing in more and more those things in which are both beneficial to you and to the collective as a whole. Okay? And of course, there's many ways to distinguish which is which. Alright, so that is the overall energy for this week. Time to act. Okay? Now, the past energy that we got was that of Wunyo. Now, Wunyo is the wishing room. Okay? And it's in the upright position, which means we get the positive description of this particular energy, which is upright. It means that this is joy that is coming and that can be trusted because you earned it. So whether you are karmic, whether you are of the cross-watcher variety versus those who knowingly are part of this collective and been at the spiritual journey for some time, it's telling you that you have some joy coming. Now, for some of you, that may be a great, sigh of relief for you, because many of us have gone through a series of, very intense and very difficult tests, if you will. And most of you, especially within the collective community, have successfully negotiated most of your tests, and you are moving forward as a direct result of that. Whereas many of those who are not within the collective have either chosen to ignore it, and as a result of it, it's going to be even worse when it presents itself again in the next cycle, and it will. So I don't know what to say to you. I wish I could be more encouraging to some of you, but because of the energy that I've gotten on a daily basis, I know that there are people out there that I'm talking to, either now or in the future, who have already made up their minds. They have no desire to walk, if you will, the rarely walked path. They're scared, they're fearful, they are more concerned about what everybody around them is doing and thinking and everything else. They want to be part of the herd. They don't have the courage to walk alone, So I just learned how to play that song the other day. I was just thinking about it, and I said, it's not a bad song, So anyway, I got that song, pretty much nailed down too. So it's neither here nor there. I play the guitar. I don't sing well, but I try. I write my own stuff for the most part because I do like to get the word out in every way I can. I've made videos. These are videos. I've made little documentaries and so on and so forth. But YouTube would not allow me to put them here. They keep saying that it's some type of copyright infringement because I had this excerpt and that excerpt, no matter what I say in advance in the video or, how short it may be. It's obvious they just don't want, whatever reason, that information, even though a lot of the information was things that I got from other things that I found on YouTube as well. I just knew where to look. That's neither here nor there, but I'm just making a point because not only am I a rebel in many ways, I've accepted that title because I know that I am in many ways, but I definitely am somebody who champions liberty, freedom, at all costs, and not just for myself, but for others as well. So I bring to their attention the things that they often have no idea about in terms of their own slavery, servanthood, and everything else, and how much their life force is truly being siphoned away, all the way from birth to death. And I have gone through decades now, building up a tremendous amount of information to back up all of that, those statements. I have sources, FOI documents, quotes from the very scoundrels that I like to bring to attention because I believe them to be parasitical in nature, evil. By evil, I mean that either they are empty vessels and they are being operated by malevolent forces, or they themselves are truly without empathy on any level, and they have done the most. And we're starting to see little things, coming to the surface And more people are being exposed to the possibilities, even though they easily dismiss it, like Epstein files, things of that nature, of course. These things have been going on for hundreds, not thousands of years, by their own admission, by the way. And I can give you quotes on that too. And I promise you, I'm going to be doing those things once I get to a point where I can actually find the time to do it. So we know that past energy is that of Wunyo. Again, joy that you can trust because you earned it. Now, our present energy is that of the Degaz. And Degaz also is in the upright in this case. Now, Degaz, the basic meaning for it is, it's the moment, if you will, that night ends. So daylight appears. And not slowly. It's not a slow transition, but it's a sudden shift where everything is different and then there's no going back. Okay? So, it's the clarity in the moment confusion ends in somebody's life. So for somebody out there, you have really come to the pinnacle of your karma, perhaps. I'm assuming that's what it is. That's what often leads us into clarity. So you finally did some inner work, and it's turning out that you're finally getting a little bit of, if you will, of downloads, the feedback, your answered questions you pose to the universe, perhaps. You can get it from 3D sources, obviously, whether it's friends or family, a therapist, whatever the case may be. But that's what this is telling us. Our present energy is an awakening, an awareness, answered questions, where night becomes day, where the 2 points meet, okay, instantaneously. That's why it kind of looks like an hourglass when it's on its side, okay? Think that middle point, that's Degaz right there, that point where those 2 triangles intersect. Okay. All right, so other things it could mean is basically, again, the light, and, illumination of something, a breakthrough in something, growth. Talks about, again, I already said awakening, so cosmic consciousness of some type, happiness, security and certainty, balance, the place where opposites meet, yin and yang, so to speak. Okay. Now, as far as our obstacles and challenges is concerned, we have Kanaz, the torch, or flame, the illumination, but this is in the reverse. So it's telling us that basically, even though these insights are given, you can easily dismiss them as well. You don't have to accept them, and sometimes by not having the courage, or maybe you feel that you just don't know what to do, and I understand that. Every one of us goes through that. I can't even tell you how many times in a week that I say, why can't I get the answers that I'm seeking clearly? And it comes in its own time. That's the thing you have to memorize. I mean, sometimes we're not allowed to know something, or something entirely until it's time for us to know those things, okay? So you have to be patient. You have to understand it's in God's timing, the universe's timing, and not our timing often. We feel that, hey, we're subjected to time here. We can't wait forever. And we allow that to get us. I know, because I've battled that myself many a time. What does Kanaz mean? Okay, it's the moment where darkness stops. So we saw that in the present energy with Degaz, but as we can also see, it can be an obstacle or a challenge, especially if it's a rude awakening for somebody out there who was seeking clarity, but the clarity that came was not perhaps what they were expecting, maybe even wanted. I don't know. It depends. I mean, if you're in the collective, it's probably something that will help you move even farther on your journey, okay? Where if it's for a karmic, for example, it could be something that really, really, it really ticks you off, it trips you. Your emotions are going both ways, and you're not sure really how to reconcile this new information. So, as I said, since Kanaz is basically in the reverse here, instead of being where darkness stops, It's actually, so I made a mistake. I'm sorry. And this is why I write this down sometimes, because, I can easily get ahead of myself. So Keynes, again, it is in the reverse. It's ordinarily the torch, the flame, the knowing. Okay, but in this case, it's basically lack of clarity. Okay, so it means basically terminations, possibly facing up to one's own death. It talks about disease, breakups, instability. Talks about a lack of creativity and perhaps even a sense of nakedness and exposure. Now, I don't mean that in a physical way. I'm sure you understand what I mean. It's where the things that you were trying to keep hidden are going to be revealed. And it's a matter of time. It doesn't matter who you are out there and what you've done, no matter how many, you know, measures that you've taken to keep this, whatever this is, this or these secrets hidden. I mean, the universe, it's a universal law. What is secret will be revealed. We're seeing that. That's what I'm trying to tell you. We can see that in the astrological. We can see that in numerological. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You're living a lie if you don't believe that's going to be the case at some point. So your best bet is to bring all that stuff out on your own and deal with it. Take control of yourself. Deal with your demons. Do not allow them to win. Okay? If you say that this isn't about balance, then you have no idea what this journey is really all about. Okay? And growing is going to be quite difficult for you, and you're going to find yourself behind a rock and a hard place on many occasions. And I don't mean towards growth. I mean, there's no growth without some discomfort, granted. But I'm talking about losing everything, including and up to your own life in this case. So, if you've been getting away and doing the worst, for a long period of time, it's judgment time for you. It is. It's coming. I've been telling you this. There's countless other readers, I'm sure, that have been saying the same things. I don't hear it every day. They're either talking about love or jobs and whatever, this, that, and the other thing. I just ask for whatever the energy is that the collective itself needs. And again, I'm not saying it's because I'm doing something better or anything like that. I want to know what they want or what source wants you to know out there, those of you who stumble on my particular channel. Not what you perhaps want to know. I mean, if you want to know about love, you want to know about your jobs, sometimes those things come through, definitely. But other times, not so much. And sometimes the things that I get are not potentially very positive, and it is what it is. I have to be faithful to whatever it is that I'm shown, so. Alright, so instability, lack of creativity, false hope, illusions, that's all part of Keynes in the reverse. Again, not too positive in terms of its energy, okay, in the reverse. And again, those are your obstacles and challenges, so we already know that growth requires a certain amount of discomfort. So if you keep that in mind, then this can be transmuted into something positive. And that's, I think, what they're telling us, being that those things which are hidden are being revealed. Clarity is coming, but, not wanting to see it, accept it, or fighting it, whatever the case may be, is going to result in less than favorable conditions for you. Okay, so now the help and advice is that of August, and it is in the upright, and that's good. Your help and advice is telling you basically that you should have your raised stance. It's like the elk with its horns and the ready. It's the point of letting you know that I can do harm to you. Okay? I haven't yet done so. I'm letting you know. I'm giving you a warning, kind of a thing. So it's defense. It's the warding of a space, a possession or a person. It's guarding. It's defensiveness, that kind of a thing. But it also means awareness and readiness. So knowing your boundaries and enforcing them, that kind of a thing. Okay. That's what Algos is. So it's telling you you have to take action in this particular case, and it's telling your action is basically to be aware, be diligent, protect yourself, protect others, protect your space, protect your possessions, protect your position, whatever it is. That's what it's telling you to do in terms of what action to take. Okay. Now your future outcome is that of Analthus. Analthus is in the reverse. Okay. In the upright, it teaches us that struggles, again, they sharpen what comfort itself dulls. So don't, you know, it's not that you get what you want, you get what you need. I guess that's another way of looking at Malthus. It's usually referred to as the needs room. Your needs, your necessities. We all have need of food and water and air and shelter and, love and all those types of things. Now, in the reverse, what it's telling us is that, our spiritual and emotional needs are not being met here. It talks about, your physical needs not being met, as well as your emotional and spiritual. It talks about somebody who may be going in the wrong direction currently. And again, that adds up to what we're seeing here. How you handle this clarity, how you handle this information that you're being given. Okay? Are you going to act, or are you going to be a coward? I guess I'm just going to call it the way that it is. And remember now, being brave is not the absence of fear. It's overcoming it. It's moving forward, even though your feet, your legs, your whole body may be trembling, right? You don't know how this is going to pan out, but you move because you know you're right. You know it's right. It's right to move. I'll just leave it at that. Okay? So, again, this is somebody who's moving in the wrong direction currently. Somebody who is possessive. Somebody who may be in some way, shape, or form constraining the freedom of another, maybe a group of people somehow, some way. I don't personally see how that is possible, minus, law enforcement or military, forcing you into submission and throwing you in a cage. But, a lot of it is psychological too. That's what the megalomaniacs who rule us right now basically are still in the process of using. They created a prison without the bars. You don't know it, but you are very much you're a prisoner in this, not only in this country, in this world right now. You may be expressing elements of freedom, but trust me when I say your life force is being siphoned right under your nose. Exactly like the Matrix. And that's why I like that movie, because the metaphors that are in there, once you become commonly aware from science and from mythology and religious studies, as well as occultic studies and everything else, science, you see these things. You see them for what I believe that they're really all about, and it makes so much sense to me. Okay, so what we're getting at here is now this is somebody who's basically in a state of distress, lack of freedom, drudgery, toiling, deprivation, stagnation, somebody who is starving both possibly physically as well as emotionally, as I've already stated. And that's basically what this reading is all about. It's telling you to act, and it's telling you basically the acting is to stand your ground in whatever this is that's coming your way. Okay? Because this is the future that we're looking at here now currently. Now, with that in mind, I bid you all the very best. I have confidence you're going to get through this like you have many, many other tests in the past for my collective. Now, for those out here, those cross watchers, I should say, I'm, again, having a very, very difficult time. I'm trying to be quick about this, but I'm finding my mind going 100 different directions. I'll just leave it at this. For those who are less prone to these types of, circumstances and experiences, in other words, you're still early in your spiritual journey, and, the trials and tribulations, you're still trying to find ways of dealing with these situations. For those who are truly inspired to do something about this information pertains to you as well. Okay? So whatever it is and how hard it might be and how courageous you're going to have to be, keep in mind a great deal of this, if you will, negative or um, darker, low vibrational energy operates in a state of, or it operates in a way of, I guess you could say, delusions, creating illusions, just to get you to accept something so that you're not really focused in on whatever the truth of that something may be, and then you never get any further ahead. You don't know it. Again, those who are deceived don't know they're being deceived. Um, and I'm here to tell you that a good portion of our population is highly deceived. I mean, on a massive scale. I mean, Orwell wasn't the first person to talk about it, and he certainly isn't the last person to bring it up, and he makes a lot of good points, because he was affiliated with MI5 and so on, and British intelligence. He knows what's going on. As other authors like H.G. Wells, he wrote a whole thing called The Conspiracy and many other books, not just War of the Worlds, The Invisible Man, all those kinds of things. He wrote books about what's going on in terms of the political aspect of our culture back in the 30s. And they've been doing psyops and all these things early on last century. And I assure you that they are far more sophisticated in their tools and everything else. This, for the internet, for example, being one of them. When you understand that DARPA is the Defense and Research Program of the U.S., where they create things such as our computers, our internet access and everything else, and after they've developed what it is that they really want to use it for, then they push it out to the public domain. I mean, that's a simplified way of looking at it, but that's what they do. And yes, TV is another example of that. And they were doing advanced psychological, warfare tactics and so on in the 30s, like I was talking about, with H.G. Wells and his War of the Worlds, radio broadcast, where people took it absolutely literally and were throwing themselves out windows of high rises and everything else, thinking the world was being invaded by Martians. Now, I know it sounds silly, but if you look into it, you'll see for yourself there was a genuine psychological, warfare situation that was being perpetuated and tested on the American public in the 1930s, and it's become far more sophisticated today. You don't even know that you're being attacked. Even if you have all your devices off, they still have the means of projecting their desired ideas, thoughts, and so on into you specifically. It's, again, you can see that in the U.S. Patent Office. Look at the U.S. patents, and you're going to see some pretty crazy shit. Okay, so, and you can't have a patent if you can't prove that you can actually do what's on there. So they have the sophisticated means of planting these types of things into your mind. Okay, without you being aware of it, typically, unless you're very self-aware. Alright, so I've said a lot. I know that I've gotten off in tangents. I often do, because there's a lot more that I want to say than what I am saying in these readings. So I hope you will forgive me for that. I know it's been long-winded at 33, almost 34 minutes. So I'm going to leave it here, and I do wish you all the very best. I hope you're having a good weekend, or actually week. It's Thursday currently. So you guys take care. God bless. Stay victorious, and we'll all meet someday in Valhalla. Okay, take care. Bye.